everybody. We're back, Paula and I. It's been, I think 2.5 months now. Paula and I have been working on the family of Roots. And so we apologise we haven't been with you, but we were determined to come back bigger, better, and stronger when we were ready. And we're ready. We're so ready, aren't we, Paula?
Definitely
And
ready.
we are rebranding. So just to let you know, we are going to be called, or in fact, we are called Roots Change Podcast. And that's because we are now a family, a community, a group of roots conscious businesses. And it's really flipping exciting. And so there's no coincidences in this world. And this has coincided with aligning with the wonderful Andy Woodward, who is with us today. And his story blew me away over a year ago, and also through a friend, Andy Marsh, who's also been on the podcast. And I've heard so much about him, but I've never formally been introduced. But I'm just really, really want to know more about his journey, past, present, and what's coming up for the future, because I know it's going to be very, very exciting. So, Paula, we've been on quite a journey, haven't we? Tell us, what's happening. Updating us on the Roots family, the mycelium, and everything else we have been working on.
Oh, we've been working, squirreling away behind the scenes. There's lots going on for us in terms of our networking and bringing businesses together, because that's really important. Because when we work together, when we collaborate, we bring more to the table, and that's going amazingly well with our Roots Connections family. There's lots happening in terms of our memberships as the Roots Change family into something that is actually consciously going to be raising the vibration across the land, and the earth. It's a powerful place to be.
Yeah, it certainly is. And again, no such thing as coincidence. Yesterday, I went to a networking. I was drawn to go at the Wellbeing Farm in Edgerton near Bolton. And I didn't realise this at the time. In fact, it hadn't been announced. But when we got there, Celia, who owns the Wellbeing Farm, announced that it was World Conscious Day. It wasn't just World Conscious Day, it was the launch of, because she had developed it. You have to go through some kind of rigmarole to get these days. There's days for everything, I know, but can you believe there was no such thing as a conscious day? And as we often talk, Paula and I, and everybody that's in our group, we talk about conscious businesses, world consciousness, and how we need to be that way now to raise the vibration, to move forward in what we are calling the golden era. That's what I feel like it is the golden era now. We've gone past 5 years next week when we went into lockdown, which we don't need to go on too much about, but I remember the date very well. It was 23rd of March, because it was a day after my mother's 90th birthday, and we had to cancel all our plans. And everything went topsy-turvy a little bit, but it was all meant to be. It was all meant to be. It was all aligned, and it was all, to get to where we are today. Lots is happening, and we are on the road for something quite spectacular. And so without any further ado, I want to introduce Andy Woodward, who has got the most amazing, quite tragic in many ways, but it had to be to get to where he is today. So Andy, I just want you to tell us a little bit about your past, your childhood, what happened to you.
Start it first. I can go right back, but I'll start it off with this. Yesterday, I went to Hull and the sun was shining. I was going there to do another podcast. And on the journey, you see, the journey of life is mapped out for us. And my life and my journey took me on a train yesterday. And on that train, I stopped at Sheffield. And I went outside and I looked out and I smiled and the sun was shining on me. And I saw a fish and I saw a fountain right in front of me. And I looked at that fish and I looked at the fountain and I saw a fish and I saw water and I saw purity. And then I reflected on the past and I thought, I played for Sheffield United as a footballer. It was my dream to be a footballer, but my career kind of ended there. And it was part of the chapters of a book in a life journey.
Yeah.
And I smiled again and I got back on that train, on that railway track, on that straight line. And I thought to myself, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. And I felt the most amazing energy that come through me. And I thought, the book's finished in the past. The new book starts. The new chapter.
I love
the new
that.
beginning.
Yeah.
So that was yesterday.
Yeah.
And this morning I'm here and I woke up and I went outside and I looked up and it was cloudy, but it was air. I could breathe. I looked at a tree and I went, this is another good day. And I'm here now with you and I'm in a great place. But it all started, it didn't start at 10 years of age. It actually started before I was born. In 1971, my mother was one of 11 children. She had a great family life, great sisters and brothers, and her sister was 9 months pregnant. She was walking down in Manchester, down towards Kingsway. And she walked down there and it was a dark night, 9 months pregnant, vulnerable. And there was a sole male there waiting, a predator, an evil man who dragged her into the back garden and raped and murdered her.
Oh my God.
That was before I was born. His name was Ronald Bennell. Move on to when I'm 10, Stockport boys playing, innocent, vulnerable child. And a coach turned up, another evil man, with a mission to destroy humanity. That man was Barry Bennell. Later in life, we found out that Barry Bennell's cousin was Ronald Bennell. So when they talk about DNA in generations throughout life's existence, there is no coincidence that his cousin murdered my mum's sister and then went on to destroy our family. And that was when the destruction of me back then started. And he started by introducing me to a new team. I was vulnerable. He was a master at paedophilia. He had a ring of coaches across the country that were all doing the same, but they learned off him because he'd learnt it off somebody else, going back through generations. There was a mass amount of them all acting in the same MO, the Pied Piper. This is me. I will give you your dream. To the parents, my mum and dad, he picked out the most vulnerable ones with the parents that were really soft. He chose me because he saw it. And my parents were protective. So what it really shows is that they were the most protective parents you could have. However, this is the master at paedophilia. They put their trust in him. Position of trust and power. And that's where it all began.
Manipulation. and just such heartbreak, Andy. You've been through so much.
It's at the highest level.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now I
And it
sit
still
here now.
happens. It still happens as well.
Oh yeah. Now I sit
Oh,
here now.
yeah. So much goes on.
I'm
And
50. I'm 51 years of age.
Yeah.
Now I'm empowered to inspire others. However, that journey that I went on was a journey of resilience. And it all starts with one word: relationships. Because we're born into this world as free spirits. We're born with two fears. We don't fear anything other than the fear of being dropped and the fear of loud noises,
Yeah.
vibrations that cause that fear as a baby. The rest is learnt. It's society, it's earth, it's relationships. And relationships are within families, within people, within monsters, with evil people that define our path of life. And as children, we're so vulnerable. It's evolution of us.
Yeah.
do you think, what I'm listening to this is what I'm instantly picking up here is ancestral trauma that could go back generations and generations and generations. We're talking like hundreds of years here, that it
Yes.
comes back again and again. And you chose spiritually to come back to this life to experience all of this so that you could be in a position to actually make the change. That's what I've heard. Is that correct?
Got
Do you
it.
think?
You've got it. We sign up for life
Yeah,
in
I
the
believe so.
universe, in the spiritual world. And yes, I've been here numerous times, as
Yeah.
many others. But yeah, I had to go on this journey. And boy, it's been tough.
Mm.
But I'm here now. And this is the start of the change. And yes, it's been one hell of a journey. I can go deep. I did the podcast yesterday. I did an hour and 45 minutes, and that was part one. So that was it. He said yesterday, you have like a long documentary of humanity and what your journey's been, but I can narrow it right down to what happened to me as a child. People will grasp it because it doesn't have to be sexual abuse. Abuse is emotional, it's physical, it's a relationship. And a relationship, a lot of people say it's a partner, a wife, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a family. It's not. It's a relationship. Barry Bennell was a relationship. And that is the causation of what defines us later in life.
And
Could I ask you a question? Oh, sorry,
go
carry
on.
on, Paul.
Can I ask you, so when you first spoke out about this, where were you at? What kind of helped
Yeah.
you do that? What gave you the courage? Because there'll be people watching this that are going through things
Yes.
and they won't know how to kind of
No.
grab that courage to do something. How did you do that?
I think for me, I'll really skip right through quickly. So as a child, I had this inner strength to carry on. He raped me, over a 6-year period. I mean, that's daily. So the figures are phenomenal. But the way I see it now, the hardest thing that adults really, you see, I have two worlds. I said before to you, I have the human science world, and then I have my spiritual world,
Yeah.
the beliefs, the core of the universe. But in this humanity world of life, when we go through a trauma as a child, we're Some don't, and so many aren't with us anymore that couldn't cope with that. But as a child, we have this inner resilience to keep going. We just got to keep going, got to keep going. And we store all that trauma. And then we get into our adult life. And that trauma then continues because it continued with me for many years. So what we end up being is organically as children, we are empathic. We're empaths. We've got big hearts. We didn't ask for that to happen. But because of that, those events in life as children, it defines our future that we become so vulnerable and empathic and big hearts, and we want to help anybody because we don't want subconsciously to go through that. We don't want anybody else to suffer like we did.
Yeah.
So we go through that path of life. So in relationships, we struggle, and there's light and dark. And those that are powerful and feel that power, the position of trust in relationships is that I will take control of you. They see a beacon of light on us as empaths. So we tend to migrate to people that are wrong. We don't see it at first because they're masters in their own right of relationships. So they can take advantage of a man or a woman because it happens to both. But that childhood trauma lives with us. So we find it so difficult to speak out or talk, and it's a burden. It's put in a box, as they say, and we live through life, but we struggle because we don't know how to engage in a good relationship, a balanced relationship, because we attract those narcissists, we attract those horrible people, and we question ourselves, and we go through life like this is my life, going through life, stumbling along, have that resilience inside us. We've got to keep going. We can't give up. Some fall like soldiers. Some are no longer here. Some have to. They can't cope with it. But those that are still alive, that are in those dark places now, is a lifetime, and they will go back, and you have flashbacks, you have videos, you have images, you have everything of life behind us. And it's all there. And we're confused because what we go is like, well, what's gone on? And then we go into not self-pity, but we go into, well, why did this happen to me? Why? What did I do? Why me?
That
And
guilt almost, where you don't deserve to have that guilt, but then you start asking, what did I do? What did I do?
And what comes with that guilt, Jackie, is this. We feel guilty as adults, and there's self-blame. So what we do is we blame ourselves for our childhood because we live in an adult brain and we have flashbacks as children. But what is very hard for a human brain to do as an adult is to step out of that adult brain and go back to the child. Go back to the child. Because once we go back to the child and we can see them in society, children, and you look at a 10-year-old child, I look at it and I go, that was me. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't me to blame. It wasn't me. So that's the hardest thing. And I talk about steps because acceptance is the first hurdle to get over. Accept it wasn't my fault. Once you get through that barrier or hurdle of acceptance, it's then being able to then say to ourselves about a path of recovery. Because the resilience part is our ability to keep alive, stay afloat,
survival,
don't drown, survival, exactly that. So I talk about 3 R's, and I always talk about the power of 3. The first is the relationships throughout our life that defines what we do, everything. The second bit is the resilience of staying alive, staying just about. Sometimes we feel like we're drowning, but somehow we can pop back up again. And that's the resilience element of humanity, that we're resilient no matter what, no matter if the stakes are against us and it's going to destroy us. Somehow we just go, okay, I can breathe again. And then it comes again and it's waves of
Yeah.
roller coaster of
Yeah.
life.
I think you feel like you've got weight on your legs pulling you
Exactly.
underwater, then you go,
Yeah.
breath, under, breath. Yeah,
Exactly
yeah.
that. And the third art is the recovery. Because once we've done all that resilience, we've appreciated and we've accepted all those relationships and all of that. And we're then on the journey of healing. And then it's a process of healing. And in that healing process, it can be, well, how does somebody speak up about this? How do I get a voice? And it's a very, very hard door to recovery. And it's a long process. And that could be a lifetime of recovery, but we're recovering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get
Constant, that
that?
phrase, isn't it? It's a constant journey
It is.
you have to go through. And I just, one of the things that absolutely fills me with admiration for you, Andy, is that you got the strength to speak
Hmm.
out. And I'm going
Yeah.
to speak on a personal level here because your story particularly has touched me because what happened to you happened to someone very, very close to me. Not in the same way, but his way of dealing with it was very, very different. And basically, every area of his life, you talk about different stages, he, like a shutter blind, he closed it down and locked it, walked on, just like that didn't happen. Next, that didn't happen. Next, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's so the wrong way to deal with it, but it's only his way of dealing with it. And he's still going through it. And as a
Yeah.
child, he had a speech impediment. He couldn't speak because of
Mm.
it. He literally couldn't
Yeah.
speak. And so this is about losing your voice. And
Yeah.
the reason why I'm telling you this is because if you don't speak out, if you don't do what you have done, then what happens to all the relationships is that it affects everybody.
It does.
And of course, it affects everybody anyway because of the hurts. You don't want people you love to be affected like that. But if you don't deal with it, every person you come across, if you're not dealing with it, you will hurt and you will destroy. So I am so full of admiration for you. And the reason why I want to bring this up is that anyone that's watching this today who has been through this and is wondering what to do next because they feel disempowered. Now's the time, and everyone's on an individual journey, to feel empowered. You give people strength, Andy. And so I want you to please tell those people who were
Yeah.
affected, men or women, what you did to feel empowered to speak out. What did you do?
I think, I've been kind of I've been fortunate in that over the many years I had numerous therapists that some were awful, some could have killed me. But the odd ones, I've filled my toolbox up with mechanisms and ways to have that internal strength. And also, I think for me, it got to a stage where there was too many wrongs that had happened to me that weren't my fault, that were organizations that have let me down. So the football world had let me down. I went into the police force. In 2003, I had a claim against Crewe, which I was gonna do it then. I wanted to win the case and then go, boom, have that. But they had barristers there. There was the institutes that knew that this was coming. And on the day of the trial, the judge got changed, ironically, or not now, because I know how it all works. And he said to me, go back to be a police officer. He wouldn't allow any media in there. He made it a closed door, and the door was shut and locked. So from 2003, I was left with the police interviewing me because I'd gone to see him in prison, Bennell, because they asked me to, which was weird, but anyway. And said, why are you in the prison seeing him, a paedophile? And I explained everything. It was on tape, and it'll still be on tape in the archives. And they said, we'll not put you through any child sex cases, rapes, etc. Brilliant. I spent the next 11 years, once I'd done with probation and everything else, I was on every single one. And then 2013, when I did a magazine anonymously in the Sunday Times, I got hoiled in by the big bosses. So what's this about, Gary Speed? I said, well, well, do we? Explained it all. The next 18 months, I was put on every single sex case you can think of. Put for 8 hours in front of a booth, looking at paedophilia, images, videos, draining me, taking me out. My energy started to go under. And they destroyed my career. They had to get me out. They found a way. I know that now, but at the time I didn't, because it
It's like
was like my
Japanese
career.
torture, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it was awful, awful torture. But
Drip, 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 drip.
yeah, so as I've gone through my life, and I'm really shortening it all down because there's so many stories, it's unbelievable. But I come out of the police while I was in there, and I'd got some therapy, and the therapist was brilliant, and he was one that I could really chat to, and he said to me, he said, this is a true. I've never heard anything quite like this, Andy. I'm a therapist and I need therapy because this has blown my head. And I was kind of like, oh, I know. But back then I was still the child within. Although I'd had all that, I wanted to expose him because in 2014 as well, I kind of was at a point where, was it downloads? I don't know what the bloody hell was going on because I didn't have my spiritual awakening then, but it was kind of like, got to look into Bennell, got to find what's he doing. And I found out that he was out. I found out he was in Milton Keynes. I found out that there was 2 other cases going on. And I was like, I've got to get you. I've got to get you. You've destroyed my life. You've destroyed my career. You've destroyed my football. And it was kind of a vendetta, really. It was kind of, I've got to get you. And then I had this therapy. And then by the universe again, I connected with a guy called James Bentley, who was just a program writer. So he said, write it all down. So I asked him for some help. Then he goes, oh, I know a guy that's written a book, Danny Taylor. He wrote it about Forest. And I thought, brilliant. I can write something. He can help me write, get it down. And lo and behold, he was a journalist at The Guardian. He came to see me. He went, ugh, I need to lie down. Come back to me, and then said, will you do an article? I was like, ugh. But I was in my conscious and subconscious. It was like, I've got an opportunity here.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can launch this, and they don't know.
Yeah.
And I was clever enough then. I'd had a journey of life, a journey of therapy. I'd had a journey of the police. I'd had a journey of football. I was like, if I do something here, it can not only help people, it can expose it, and it can be something big. Little did I realize what it would do. And on the day it came out in The Guardian, and the night before, I was crying, I was praying. I'm not religious, but I was like going, please, because at that pinnacle moment, I'd lost my job, I had no career. And I was like, and by the way, it wasn't for any fame, any exposure, any money, anything. It was just purely, I was at a point where I had to do something and help others because it was always in my gut. That's why I joined the police. That's why people do it in life. The empaths. Why do they go in NHS?
Yeah.
Why do they become therapists?
They're helpers.
Because of
They're always
their child
yeah.
relationships.
Yeah.
Empaths, good people.
Yeah.
So, and then there's light and dark in the police because there's so many dark that are wanting to destroy, but there's some great people that join the police or the fire or whatever to help. 999, wonderful numbers. Rescue, help.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, so I just launched it, but I was still a child. So 24 hours it took the BBC to get me on there. Oh, why did they get me on there? Let's think about it. Institute. Oh, mind my French. Oh, SH1T. Whoa, this is big. Let's get him in. 24 hours, straight on Victoria, Derbyshire. And if you ever watch, I'll send it to you, both of you, and watch it. And you will see an adult. It was a great example for those that actually do watch this. A
Yeah.
great example of a man talking about his abuse, although he'd had all the therapy and strong to release this story, but there's a child within him.
Mm.
I look a 43-year-old man, but you look in my soul, I
Yeah.
am a child. And that's a great example of vulnerability. They knew my vulnerability. I just launched a massive story that went global. Get him in. Get him on that sofa and ask him. Put him on the spot. One of the questions Victoria asked me, and I go, but good job I've got a quick brain. She actually asked me 24 hours after I launched something so sensitive. So what's this about your sister marrying Barry Bennell? Now think of that. Live on TV. Not recorded, live.
Oh my God.
So it didn't give you opportunity to, yeah, yeah.
And it's 16 minutes, and you watch it after Victoria, that first interview. I'll send it you. And when you analyze it, it's a great example of how institutes and organizations take advantage of a vulnerable person. They interview them, and then off you go. Bye
Yeah.
bye. You've done a great job. Brilliant for
Yeah.
us.
Well,
Or, oh, this is great.
we were talking off camera about the different language and the way that things are
Yes.
positioned on
Yeah.
media. It's
Positioned.
absolutely
And
terrible.
that is an ultimate of position of power,
Positioned, yeah.
position of trust, because I trusted them. I didn't know, I'd never been in the media, I'd never experienced it. I'd seen the football side of things, but I was kind of like, okay, I put my trust in you.
Yeah.
Boom. And then a week later, they get the other lads on, and I'm on the end, and I'm looking at them, and I'm an absolute wreck, crying my eyes out.
Yeah.
Great for TV. They won the BAFTA award for
Yeah,
the most powerful story. Powerful. You put four vulnerable lads on a
Yeah.
sofa, and then you put me on the end, right on the end, like we'll chuck him at the end here, let him watch what goes on here, and I'm crying on it.
Yeah.
Great, brilliant. What a piece of history that is. Andy comes out, blows the whistleblower, and then we'll drag these four in. What a great bit of entertainment that is. Poof. People's
Have we
lives.
really come to this? Have we, as humanity, come to this?
mm,
It makes me so sad. I mean, your story really touches me anyway, Andy. I think it's horrific, but you're just such an inspiration for so many as well.
Yeah.
But have we come to this?
Yes,
Is this us now?
this is the way
yeah,
We
it
have
is
to
right
yeah.
change
now.
this. We
Mm.
have to
Yes, we do.
change
Let's
it.
destroy
It can't
lives.
carry
Destroy
on.
them.
It is destroying lives. And there's another gentleman that actually went on Victoria, and he had the bravery to come out. And I understand how people in relationships are so fearful. The word fear, you see, because they put fear in, because there's no trust there. Because what tends to happen is the judicial system, they're left hanging for so long. How do I report it? So how long is it going to take? Well,
Yeah.
it could take 2 years. 2 years of my life
Yeah.
living with this burden.
Yeah,
It's all wrong. So I understand people that are watching this or see this as a fear of, well, what do I do? Who do I turn to? It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
there.
And
It's
is it worth
actually
the
not
risk?
there.
Is it
That's
worth the
it.
risk that they're going to be asking, aren't they?
Absolutely. And you've got to have a balance. You've got to try your utmost, even if you're in your darkest times, is try and have a balanced view on, is this beneficial to me? Is this beneficial to my relationships, my children? Maybe it's a partner if he's talking about historical stuff away. Is it beneficial for my family? Who's gonna actually benefit from this? Am I gonna benefit? It's those questions that you ask yourself, you know? And I think the most important thing before anybody is to speak out. Like I didn't, although I felt like I was healed, I had to do it when I did it, and I'm bloody glad I had. I did,
Yeah.
but I wasn't healed enough in preparation for what came after
Yeah.
because I ended up embroiled in the media on an industrial scale all over the world, magazines, like interviews. I was drained to the
Yeah,
nines.
I'd say in some ways that's a naivety because you would expect people to
Exactly.
actually be more
Yes.
gentle
Because
with
I'd
the
not been in that
Always is
world.
yeah.
Well, I'd not been in that world, but boy, have I got an education in that.
Yes.
So again, we go back to our path of life and my journey was an 8 year, 9 year education of what can happen when you're a whistleblower. And there's too many in the world that are no longer here for whistleblowing.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky to be alive because I'm protected. I've been protected and I've been able to escape it, but I've been cancelled. And I said yesterday, really quickly, just to show you the magnitude of this, is that this was a global story. It was phenomenal. I wanted to make a change. I set up with naivety, with vulnerability. I set up a charity for what we're talking about now for the future.
Yeah.
I had the world's press there. Live, I was live on BBC, Channel 4, ITV, Sky News, CNN. They were all there, live. And I said what my vision was. And what I'd done is I'd asked two of the lads who I felt sorry for to come and join me on the journey. They jumped at that, but within a month of it, I didn't know about charities. They removed me from it because their ego,
oh,
firstly, they were on the media, brilliant egos. And then their damage from childhood, I hadn't seen them since they were children, damage, it blew their heads. So they destroyed me. Who was behind that? I don't know. Was it them? Was it the institutes? Was it whoever? Because I was on a mission and I had the world's press at my feet.
you're dealing with very powerful people, aren't you?
I was.
And this is the problem, isn't it? And we hear all about it. When you do your research about so many people in positions of fame, let's say, whether that be musicians, pop stars, Hollywood, all of this sort of thing. We know it goes on, and it's all happening at the moment, isn't it? It's all coming out, Epstein files and all this.
Oh, yeah.
It's rife. It's absolutely rife. And the sad thing is, they call it an industry. Paedophilia is an industry. How awful is that?
It's more than an industry. The news is all being come out. It is coming out, albeit that they're all involved in it anyway.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like this morning, it came out about McDonald's, about the sexual abuse within the workplace at McDonald's. You only have to go
Yeah.
in history of McDonald's. Let's really, really, really look at it. You can look at it two ways in a balanced way, but the adverts of Ronald McDonald, the clown,
Yeah.
with the children,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just think if you go deep, really think
Free
about
free toys.
you've got it. Really think about that.
This is something that people have stopped doing. And we mentioned before
Yeah,
about being dumbed down in a way. People are
yeah,
not thinking beyond what they see.
no,
It's
Yeah.
kind of like we're in this tunnel and it's like, feed me all this stuff in the
mm,
media and just feed me and tell me what I'm meant to think. And then it makes
Yeah.
life easier. I
Yeah.
really want to appeal to anyone that's watching this that isn't that way inclined and starts to question the things that are going on because we talk about all these different
yeah,
industries. There are people that are conscious within those industries as well. And
yeah,
I'm seeing more and more it's hard to climb out of the depth
yeah,
of some of these places. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
there are people within the industries there that are conscious of it and they are trying, like you, Andy, to
mm,
make that difference. It's
yeah,
just we can't let those that have that power win. We have with the people that are
yeah,
making the difference and opening the eyes of others and making people aware. We are the ones that I think we're starting to get a more
A collective, isn't it?
hold on it now. Yeah,
Yeah.
and people
Yeah.
are more aware.
I mean, I always say about the power of three. And do you
Mm.
know when you look at a triangle and the infrastructure of
Yeah.
organizations,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is like a triangle. It's like that. The
Geometry,
pinnacle
isn't
is
it?
is your CEOs. And the problem is with them is they're so in fear. And this is where drastic changes need to happen for future generations, the children. But in simplicity, for people to understand that what the word is another R. It's their reputation.
yeah,
So their reputation, they're in fear of that being destroyed at a CEO level. But the problem is that infrastructure of the middle people, a lot of the times these CEOs, these bad ones that are dark, that want to destroy people, but the CEOs at the very top, a lot of the time don't actually get to find out what's actually happening
Yeah.
in that middle ground.
yeah,
And as the triangle goes down, you've got your grassroots, like football, your grassroots
yeah,
football,
yeah, yeah,
and then you've got your
Mm.
Premier League in all life. So you've got your grassroots, your ground workers like soldiers, and you've got the top, the lieutenants or whatever they're called, putting their orders in. And at the
Yeah.
very top of that, you've got them in the top of the institutes like the Royals or whatever,
yeah,
pressing them buttons, and the ground workers, and they fall and they go off with mental illness or they get shot and killed.
yeah,
Those middle people are those middle gap. There's fear from the bottom. If I report it, there's nothing going to happen.
yeah,
If I, if I want to stop this, there's nothing going to happen. So there's that block gap there.
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
very top, the reputation of them is they're in fear of it. So they'll turn a blind eye to it or they don't know. Because then there's twofold of CEOs or very high top people. They turn a
Yeah.
blind eye because they think, I can't deal with this. So let it carry on. But what's going to
Yeah.
happen in the future, eventually, like what's happening now, is that reputation gets blown out of the water
yeah,
with whistleblowers like me.
yeah,
And then what they do
Yeah.
then is they go, shut him up, silence him, get him away, blah, blah, blah. But what happens with that, with whistleblowers, eventually, all the evidence that they've done will come and it will bite them. That's a matter of future.
Oh,
It is going to bite them.
big time as well.
But those at the top that kind of like don't know, this has to be a solution for them that they don't feel in fear at the top for their reputation. And when they have that, that then migrates down and it helps those at grassroots
yeah,
that feel I'm safe. I've not got the fear. I will be listened to. And that's humanity as well. So I've got quite a clever brain here
yeah,
that does see it
yeah,
Yeah.
and has
Yeah.
got something that is going to come, but it's going to take time. Yet the analogy of that triangle is really humanity.
yeah,
If you really scale it right down to simplicity, it really is that. That is life. And the
Yeah.
problem is also in history with those in power, men and women, but majoritarily men, the Bransons of this world, the Epsteins, the Rothschilds, those in extreme power
The
in
elite.
men, in men, is that generational wise, sex trafficking, prostitution, sex has always been a game, a little game they play. Oh, gratification. I can have it. But now it's this generation, it's got far worse because now it's a game of I'll steal a child, I'll fly him on a private jet to an island.
yeah,
What's a human being to me?
yes,
On, off you go, under the ground. The Jimmy Saviles, bury them, put them in a hole, island, babies, nah, throw them all in. Let's fill the soil on top. They're in under earth. Both. Now that's what's now. That's what they're doing. And all these celebrities, the David Beckhams, the people that are in power, the P. Diddy's, on the front getting all their awards, and they're all parts of big charities, big smile on the face. I want to help. Behind the scenes, there's some awful things going on, and that is what needs to change.
Yeah. And we need to, people like you, who are trying to educate. Education is an important thing because
Yeah,
it's very, very easy to close off. And the vast majority of people actually do close off because it's almost too horrific.
yeah,
But I think what I'm seeing in the last 5 years, the people that are speaking out are those that have been through trauma themselves, because you have to go through pain
you do.
yourself and suffering to know that it is possible. It is possible. So if you haven't been through anything, you're not going to believe that any of these things,
Yeah.
stealing children, don't be ridiculous,
Yeah.
Andy. Don't be
Mm.
ridiculous that they steal children, put them in tunnels.
Mm.
That is just your imagination. And
Yeah,
because they cannot believe it, because they've not experienced enough trauma. And I do believe, we have been chosen for those to actually go through trauma so that we can then experience it, understand it, believe it,
yeah,
and thus we can actually encourage others and educate. And we're not bothered about reputation. I'm certainly not. I've had so many people saying derogatory things to me, who do you think you are?
yeah,
Well, I'm a good person. That's who I am. And
yeah.
that's why I'm doing it. And like Paula, like yourself.
Mm.
And so, what I want, and this is what anybody watching this, and you're thinking, oh, well, crikey, speaking out, what will so and so say? Well, what do you want? I say, what do you want in your gravestone?
Mm.
Actually. You
That's
left a
it.
legacy. You
Mm.
left a legacy. And that's what I do. I do it for my son, actually. He's my
Mm.
reason why. I've
Mm.
got one son, and I want him to know that I tried my best.
Mm.
And, whatever I achieve, if I achieve anything, I want him to know that I tried my best and I didn't just sit there
Mm.
knowing what I know. And that's important, isn't it? What would you say? Paula, I'm going to go to you actually. What would you say? Anybody watching and fearful about talking out when you know something,
Do
what
you
would you
know,
say
I,
to
I
them?
think one of the things I would say is explore the reason why you feel that fear and
Mm.
then measure it against what a world would be like with you speaking out, and then what
Mm.
a world would be like, your world would be like without speaking out. And there might be things that you would experience if you're going to speak out that are going to be quite difficult and hard to move through, but you can still move through them. So
Mm.
I think, I mean, the things that I do, I've been through certain trauma in my life, but very different to what we've talked about today. And what I also would like to say about trauma, it doesn't have to be big trauma like we've talked about
Mm,
today. It
No.
can be really something that to someone else would appear to be quite insignificant, but if it made you feel a certain way,
yeah.
it's
Mm.
still
And affected you.
traumatic. Yeah.
Mm,
And so look at the reason why you're fearing it and realize, look at the evidence around which way you go with that, with
Mm.
whatever you found out. Because I guarantee that you speaking out will improve your world. It's
Mm.
just having that realization,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Andy, what
Uh,
are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, exactly concur with what you said there. And also, it's also, I spoke before about and revert back to the start about the journey of life and the circle of life. And the circle is also significant. It's like remember the old days with was it play days with the window, the square
Oh,
window, the
yeah,
circle
the
window, the
oh yeah,
triangle window. Bit weird, that
placement.
isn't it?
Yeah.
But the
yeah.
circle of life, you see, and they all talk about holistic solutions, and that's a circle, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about, and the world's a circle. Some say it's flat Earth and all that, but and everything is a circle. It's that circle of life, circle, and it's about empowering. And what I also refer to is, like I said before, about my spiritual side, but the science side, and they are merging together because energy is powerful.
Yeah.
Energy is in us. And there's a saying like people go, oh, the atmosphere in here is not quite right.
Exactly.
That's the energy that people put out.
Yeah.
People have dark energy, and it's also a feeling that, there's people I told you before, like in America, that have studied the brain, studied the heart. The Nobel Prize 2022 was actually, when you look at science and universe and sort of like call it woo-woo, don't they? And spiritual and spirit. Oh, what you're on about mediums, and there's lots of dark in there. But what they've established in 2022 is that the electricity through our bodies is coming from a source far higher than ourselves.
Yes.
Yes.
And they won the Nobel Prize in 2022. Now they've disappeared. They've
Really?
gone off the scale of the earth.
Question
Where they
this.
are.
Question this, everyone. Everyone who's watching, go do
Yeah.
your research and question this, because that's not right. They
That's
should
a piece
still...
of science.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the guy in Canada who has been researching the heart, I told you before, the electric currents that come off our heart,
Yeah.
it's not just a muscle.
Yeah.
There's a saying, when people die of a broken heart,
Yeah. Yeah.
how
Yeah.
does that happen?
Yes.
It's connected.
Yeah.
And then they link that to, so the spiritual world talk about chakras
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and our
Like you say, the
skeleton.
circle, the alignment. It's important that everything aligns. It's not just when our doctors, or conventional doctors, we call them, just so we go with a knee problem, let's say, and they look at the knee. And that's what we've been taught. But actually, we should be looking at the whole environment, our mental health or emotional health, because it all affects that knee and every part of our body. So
Yeah.
when we talk about the circle of life, it's everything that affects our energy and our frequency.
Of course.
Actually, Paul and I went to, I don't know if you've heard of them, there's a group called Kululam. They're an Israeli group, and they go around the world singing this one song, and it's all about peace. And they go to different parts of the world, and we went, it was in Manchester, and they harmonize, big screen, and they're playing live, and everyone's harmonizing and separating it, but everyone's singing for peace. Everyone's singing this song, and honestly, there wasn't a dry eye in there. There were just tears streaming down our face. Not necessarily for sadness, actually, because of the energy in that room. We were all singing, high volume.
Yeah.
And the energy, what was it like, Paula?
It was incredible. I've got 4 children, and I took my 2 youngest children with me. Oh my God, they loved it, because what they do, they separate the different parts, different elements of the song, and have different parts of the room singing those different elements. So it harmonizes together. And when the final thing, it was mind-blowing, and it was so emotional. And that's all about energy. It's all about the connection.
It is.
And it's
the
our
love
voice.
chakra, the heart chakra.
Right, I was just about to say that. So there's 2 things here as well that's powerful. So the vibrations of music.
Yes.
So music, when you listen to a song that's dark and deep, it takes your vibration down and brings our emotions down, everything, our energy. And then we hear like a Coldplay song, and the vibration, you watch the audience and they go boom.
Yes.
That is energy.
Energy. And everybody operating on the same energy.
Frequency of music. What do birds do? Tweet, 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 tweet. It's frequency and it's sound. So when, as humans, with our voice, if we change the tone, so if I was to say, talk about something, and I lower the tone, the actual voice telling that story, you immediately are engaged.
You're in a different space.
Do you feel that?
Yeah.
So our voice is so important, our pitch and our melody, how we talk. And if I was to start shouting at you, you go, well, that's not handy.
Yeah.
So the
No.
voice is also, so when they say we have a voice, use it,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
but use it in a balanced way. We don't have to shout at someone, come on, get yourself together, everyone. We say, everybody, be a part of this. Grow together as a community to make a difference.
We
Yeah.
can do it. And I think that's the perfect place to end our podcast today.
Yeah.
Our first podcast of 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been
I just
And I'll
want
absolutely
one
just,
more
wonderful.
question. Can I be
yeah,
allowed
go on,
one more
Yeah,
question?
go.
go.
Because we've so much to Andy's story, and your book is called what, Andy?
Oh, position of trust. Well, I'm going to write another one actually that says betrayed at the bottom. But that's brilliant because I've accepted it. I've
Yeah.
forgiven them, but I need
Yeah.
to make something else that people can understand, which I will
Yeah.
do.
Which is the place you are now.
Yeah.
So just quickly tell us about Andy's future on what you want to achieve.
I'm going to change the world. No,
Yes.
no.
Oh, I think
Why
you
What,
might
not?
be
no,
actually.
what we're going to do is the vision is about collaboration
Yes.
of like-minded people can collaborate to change the world, but you can't do it alone. You have to grow that army of people
Yeah.
that can make change and shift to our humanity. And I've got these visions. I'm working with some amazing doctors and people, and I've connected with people all over the world that are all sort of aligning, including yourselves.
Yeah.
And I've got some great visions about, one thing that is really important to me is that people understand is that we are grounded with gravity. They say about going in the earth, going out to nature, trees, the energy that they give us, the roots, it starts with an acorn, it starts with a seed.
Yeah.
Have already got the seeds. The roots are starting to, and in
Wow.
what's happening right now is the trees have started to grow. And a tree is just like us with our skeletons. We always talk about balance. A tree has branches, but I tell you what, that trunk is bloody strong.
Yeah.
So we're going to build trees around the world, straight, balanced. And those branches that go off are our choices, where we go off the branch. But guess what? We need to try and align it in that spine, in that tree, and be balanced. So I've got some great ideas.
I love this.
Oh,
I'm
Andy, will you come back
excited.
again and tell us about them?
Trees
There's so
around the
much to
world.
do.
We
Yeah,
Yes.
we plant them
branches everywhere.
for purpose,
Yeah.
to reflection, in happiness,
Purposeful lives.
not
Purposeful lives.
sadness.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love
So there
Andy.
you go. And I'm in a
Thank
great
you.
place. And as the greatest showman said, this is Andy Woodward. This is me.
Yes.
So I'm in a great place.
Oh my
Amazing.
goodness, I have absolutely loved this. And what a great way to start our new faced podcast. Thank you, everybody, for coming on. Do have a look at Andy Woodward's story and watch this space with what he's going to achieve, what we're all going to achieve. And we'll be back in next week. Just have a look out what we're doing, because there's so many great people out there, and the 3 C's we work on in Roots is collaboration, connection, and community. That's all that matters. Thank you, everybody. Have the best weekend. Thank you, Andy. Thanks, Paula. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.